183 tons, over 23 feet of blade, a staggering 1,400 horsepower, locked inside a colossal bulldozer built for Libya, then stranded before it ever reached its battlefield. Ordinary lists worship numbers. Megamass judges by pressure, punishment, downtime, fuel bleed, and how fast a machine makes smaller equipment look disposable. 8 bulldozers enter this lineup as a pressure test. Some survive shock loads. Some weaponize hydraulics. Some turn traction into violence. And one machine proves that even 1,400 horsepower can still lose to politics, logistics, and the hard limits of the world around it. The Shantui SD90-C5 opens the pressure test with 800 horsepower. That is already enough to separate it from rental yard equipment parked beside pickup trucks and orange cones. This Chinese-built dozer belongs to heavy construction, where dirt is not scenery. It is inventory waiting to be shoved into a new shape. But the SD90-C5 is not just an engine with a blade attached. Its fingerprint is control. Intelligent blade control systems, real-time performance monitoring, a fuel-efficient design built to keep the machine working instead of turning every hour into a fuel-burning ceremony. That matters because fuel is not a side expense on a heavy job site. Fuel is blood. Every wasted gallon is money leaking out of the project before the ground even finishes moving. A cheap dozer pushes until something feels wrong. A serious machine measures the punishment while delivering it. The blade becomes the collision point, horsepower behind it, ground resistance in front of it, the project ledger bleeding quietly in the background. The SD90-C5 sets the floor for this lineup. Not decoration, not showroom pride. Control. The kind that makes smaller machines look like they showed up to a heavyweight fight with a garden tool. But control is only the first layer. The next bulldozer brings a different kind of arrogance. It does not just push into punishment. It lifts its own vital organs away from it. The Caterpillar D10T2 carries 600 horsepower from a Cat C27 engine. Respectable. But the real threat is not the number. The real threat is what Caterpillar chose to protect. The elevated sprocket design is the fingerprint here. It raises critical components away from the worst part of the dirt war, away from rocks, debris, impact, and the constant mechanical abuse crawling under the machine. That is not a brochure feature. That is survival strategy. The hit comes through the blade, the ground pushes back, and the undercarriage takes the threat, or the job stops. Weak machines turn that punishment into repair bills. Serious machines keep their organs out of the kill zone and keep moving while the project manager watches the budget stop bleeding. The D10T2 also carries a modular design with blades, rippers, and winches. That means it does not walk onto a job site with one personality. It changes weapons. Push when the ground needs to move. Rip when the surface needs to break. Pull when the job turns ugly and something has to be dragged out of the problem. Inside, the cab is not lifestyle comfort. It is endurance architecture. Automatic climate control. A vibration-isolated seat. Intuitive controls. Those details exist for one reason. Keep the human useful while the machine takes the beating. This is the real luxury of heavy construction. Not leather, not chrome. A machine that finishes the job without turning its drivetrain into scrap metal. And once Caterpillar shows what survival looks like, the next machine takes the same idea and makes it colder. Not louder, not flashier, more financially dangerous. The Caterpillar. D11TCD does not need a fake headline number. It earns its place through high production dozing, torque converter drive, and shock load absorption. That sounds clean. It is not. Bulldozing is impact repeated until the ground gives up. The blade hits resistance. The load shifts. The machine takes the strike. Again, and again, and again. Every hard push sends violence through steel. If that violence reaches the wrong components the wrong way, the job site stops being productive and starts becoming a repair bill funeral. That is where the D11TCD matters. The torque converter drive system handles one brutal financial responsibility. Take the hit, swallow the shock, keep the drive train from becoming the most expensive corpse on the job site. This is not a glamorous kind of dominance. It is uglier than that. It is uptime. It is hours not lost. It is crews not standing around a dead machine while daylight disappears and the project ledger keeps counting. High production dozing is not about drama. Drama is for cheap machines breaking in public. A machine like the D11TCD is built to keep passing through punishment without turning every impact into a financial wound. Visibility matters. Monitoring matters. Control matters. But the real story is simple. The ground hits back, and this machine is built to keep that hit from becoming surrender. That is why it belongs here. Less spectacle, more endurance. The kind of dozer that does not need to look angry because the dirt already knows what is coming. But endurance is only one form of dominance. The next machine brings precision into the dirt and makes hydraulics do the cutting. The Liebherr PR776 steps in with 768 horsepower, German-engineered, hydraulically controlled, monitored in real time. This is not a blunt object with tracks. It is a controlled industrial weapon. The PR776 is built for tough earth-moving tasks, including tight spaces where size can become a liability. That is the contradiction. A bulldozer wants to dominate the ground. This one has to dominate space without wasting movement. Power without precision is just expensive noise. The advanced hydraulic system gives the machine its muscle control. Performance data and fuel consumption data give it awareness. Together, they place violence exactly where the ground is supposed to fail. Not everywhere. Not randomly. Exactly there. That is what separates force from waste. Every bad push costs something. Every wasted gallon costs something. Every sloppy move in a tight work zone can turn a strong machine into an expensive problem with tracks. The PR776 does not attack the job site like a drunk heavyweight. It applies force like a hostile accountant. Cold, measured, unforgiving. It watches what it burns. It tracks what it delivers. It makes the job site explain why any movement should be wasted at all. That is a different kind of intimidation. No cheap flex, no useless theater. Just 768 horsepower routed through systems that care about control, fuel, and uptime. Smaller machines can look busy for hours and still leave the job site unimpressed. The Liebherr is not trying to look busy. It is trying to remove waste from the equation. The Shantui opened with control. The Caterpillars answered with survival. The Liebherr brings precision. Now the list climbs into a dozer that has to do something even uglier. Stay violent when the ground refuses to stay flat. The Komatsu D475A-8 brings 890 horsepower into uneven terrain. Forget the cab. Look at the tracks. That is where the fight goes. Horsepower trapped inside an engine is just potential. The ground does not respect potential. It only respects force that reaches the blade, reaches the tracks, and stays controlled when the surface turns ugly. That is the D475A-8's fingerprint. traction, maneuverability, powertrain discipline. This machine is tied to confined spaces and uneven terrain, which means straight-line pushing is not enough. A dumb dozer knows one command: forward. The D475 A-8 has to push, turn, correct, and hold pressure, while the ground tries to break its rhythm. Nearly 900 horsepower is forced straight into bad footing through a powertrain built for absolute traction. Too much power in the wrong moment becomes track spin. Track spin becomes wasted motion. Wasted motion becomes fuel loss. Fuel loss becomes time loss. Time loss becomes that quiet financial decay every serious operator hates. This is why the D475 A-8 is not just a bigger hammer. It is a hammer that still has to swing inside a tight room. Heavy where movement should be difficult. Powerful where control should start falling apart. Useful where weaker machines begin making excuses. That is the insult it delivers to normal engineering. It brings serious force into places where bulk should become a liability. It is not just stronger. It is stronger where strength should be awkward. And after that modern traction fight, the lineup steps backward into older steel. Less data, less polish, more blade-first violence. The Fiat Alice HD 41/FD50 feels like an older kind of threat. 650 horsepower, a spacious cab, operator visibility, a machine made for pushing large volumes of material and clearing obstacles. No glitter, no digital theater, just steel, horsepower, and the ancient bulldozer religion of putting a blade into the problem until the problem becomes flat. The contract is simple: blade forward, ground flattened, obstacle deleted. This is not the smooth, monitored violence of a modern hydraulic machine. This is older industrial authority, the kind that does not ask the ground for cooperation. It arrives with power, traction, and a blade that exists to erase whatever is in front of it. The fingerprint here is simplicity with consequences. A modern dozer can watch itself. It can feed numbers back into a screen. It can track fuel, pressure, and performance. The HD 41/FD50 belongs to a colder era of belief. Put power behind steel. Give the operator sight lines. Drive the blade into the material. Make the obstacle stop having a future. That is the whole contract. And there is something dangerous about a machine that simple. No need to dress it up as futuristic. No need to pretend it is elegant. It does not win with elegance. It wins by converting resistance into cleared ground. 650 horsepower in this context is not a lifestyle number. It is the shove behind the blade. The force that lets an old-school dozer walk into a work site and remind everyone that industrial dominance existed long before machines started sounding intelligent. Before bulldozers learned to watch themselves, they were already teaching the ground how to surrender. But now the old religion gives way to a bigger modern animal. 4 digits of horsepower, Japanese steel, a working titan before the final monument. 1,150 horsepower. The Komatsu D575A changes the air in the lineup. 4 digits do that. At this level, the engine is not merely powering a bulldozer, it is feeding an industrial appetite large enough to make ordinary earth movers look financially irrelevant. The D575A comes from Komatsu and carries the working identity of a heavy dozer built around tough terrain and productivity. This is not the final machine. The final slot belongs to something stranger. But this is the last operational titan before the story turns cold. The D575A is the one that feels like it belongs in the fight. 1,150 horsepower is not decoration. It is blade pressure. It is forward authority. It is the difference between equipment that looks busy and equipment that changes the job site. A machine like this does not need fake global titles to feel heavy. The number already does the work. But the number is not the whole appetite. At 1,150 horsepower, bad operation becomes expensive fast. Every wasted push becomes fuel burned for nothing. Every sloppy pass becomes time dragged across the schedule. Every weak machine working nearby starts looking like overhead. That is what makes the D575A powerful in the megamass sense, not just force, production force. The kind that takes horsepower and turns it into scheduled violence. This machine does not exist to pose. It exists to work, and that makes it more dangerous than a trophy. For a moment, it feels like the natural boss. A Japanese heavy dozer with 4-digit horsepower, tough terrain authority, and enough industrial weight to embarrass smaller machines without raising its voice. But the final slot does not belong to the cleanest working machine. It belongs to the strangest one. A bulldozer with more horsepower, more confirmed mass, a wider blade, and a fate that feels less like a job site story and more like an industrial obituary. The AO/ACO Super Bulldozer earns the final slot because its safe numbers are the heaviest shock package in this lineup. 183 tons, a blade over 23 feet wide, a staggering 1,400 horsepower, built in Italy. Intended for land development in Libya. Never used for the purpose it was created to serve. That is not just a machine profile. That is a colossal ambition trapped inside steel. The vision was brutally simple. Build a dozer with more power than anything else in this lineup. Give it a blade wide enough to make ordinary equipment look like driveway machinery. Send it to Libya. Let it impose itself on the land. But the machine never reached the battlefield. International trade embargoes made transport impossible, and the bulldozer remained in Italy. That is the coldest contradiction in the entire video. A machine built to move land could not move through the world. Think about that. 1,400 horsepower could not solve it. 183 tons of steel could not solve it. A blade over 23 feet wide could not bully its way past politics, logistics, and the invisible systems that decide whether a machine becomes useful or becomes a monument. Every other bulldozer here fights something physical. The Shantui fights material with control. The Caterpillars fight shock loads, downtime, and mechanical punishment. The Liebherr fights waste with hydraulic precision. The Komatsus fight traction, terrain, and production pressure. The AO/ACO fights the world around the machine. Roads, borders, embargoes, transport reality. The kind of enemy a blade cannot cut through. That is why it earns the final slot. Not through a lazy record claim, not through some inflated title, through the combination that matters here. The strongest numbers in this lineup and the most brutal contradiction. A bulldozer is supposed to be judged by the land it changes. This one is judged by the distance between its purpose and its prison. The final image is not dust rising over Libyan earth. It is 183 tons of steel, carrying 1,400 horsepower, still shaped like a mission it never completed. A titan without a battlefield. These bulldozers matter because each one exposes a different limit. Fuel waste, drivetrain punishment, hydraulic precision, uneven terrain, operator control, and finally, the brutal reality that even a colossal machine must obey the world built around it. So choose your machine. Would you take the 1,150 horsepower Komatsu D575A, the working Titan built to earn its keep, or the 1,400 horsepower AO/ACO, the 183-ton monument that never reached its intended battlefield? Subscribe to Megamass for machines too heavy, too violent, and too extreme to be treated like ordinary vehicles.